Welcome to the first ever episode of Scott's Shots, reviews of guns and guns accessories. Today we're going to be looking at the Sparc II, a red dot sight from Vortex. It's one that I have already on a firearm. It's actually the one that I'm showing here. It's my WK-180C. It's a great gun, and on it I have my Sparc II red dot sight as well as a 3x magnifier that flips in and out. So that's why I'm able to actually do an unboxing and a review inside the same video, because I'm already used to the scope, but I also have a new one here. So inside the box, we have, I need to cut it. Inside the box, we have our instruction manual, your basic instruction manual. Looks like there's a cloth in here. Nice and kinked manual from the way that they package it into the box, but it's there. And it works. We have our sight itself. Here's our sight. We'll look a lot more closely at that in a moment. But inside in the box as well here, we've got a number of different things. We got our Allen key to do adjustments. We have our mounting screws. We have the large riser. That's the same one that I have on my gun. I'll take a look at that again later in the review here. We have our large riser. And then we've got the smaller risers and different rail mounts. So here's our mounting hardware. And the last thing in the box here that we haven't pulled out is a package of 2 different batteries. Now these are the CR2032 batteries. They are button batteries. They're not AAAs or anything like that, unfortunately. But they are nice and common, at least. They're pretty cheap to order on Amazon, wherever you need to get them. So let's take a look at the sight itself. So the sight has the flip-up caps to keep the lenses clean. They do spring nicely. They spring right out of the way. I haven't seen any indication that the ones I have are wearing out, which is good. They fit snugly, they seat nicely, no complaints there. You have your power button, or sorry, your, well, they act as your power button, but also your brightness up, your brightness down, as well as to turn it off, you press and hold both buttons at the same time. We have our windage and elevation. The caps for these have this little string that holds them into place. It takes a little bit of getting used to because it tends to like to spin around when you're doing it. You kind of have to hold the string as you go to unscrew it until it gets loose enough. That takes a little bit of getting used to, but it is nice to know that the caps will never disappear. In order to make the adjustments, the caps also have a little notch that makes it so if they're stiff, you don't need a screwdriver. You can still make the adjustments with the little notch that's inside the cap, if you can see that there. So all in all, I would say I like the cap things. I wish the strings would spin more freely on the caps, so you can see it spinning fine now, but sometimes it likes to catch, and then it gets all mangled up a bit. But all in all, I would say that's a win. In terms of a review of how it performs now, you turn it on just by pressing. Oh, I guess it helps if I put a battery in it. I won't be turning this one on. I can turn the other one on. In terms of the scope of the sight performance itself, the 2 MOA dot that it has inside of it performs, I think, very well. In fact, even with my 3x magnifier that I have on my gun, the dot stays crisp, stays clear. In fact, I would say that, interestingly enough, through the magnifier, the dot even seems more crisp than without it, which I really enjoy. The lowest brightness, I think it's rated for night vision, and I can believe it because it is very dim. The highest brightness you have no problem seeing during the day. In terms of battery life, it even says it on the back on the package. This scope is not rated as well as some of its competitors in a similar space. At maximum brightness, it's rated for 300 hours, and at minimum brightness, it's rated for 5,000 hours. Now, I haven't killed the first battery in my first scope yet, but I also haven't used it for 1,000,000 hours, and I use it probably medium brightness. So it doesn't die super fast or anything like that. It's been in my gun for, I don't know exactly how long, but a fair amount of hours, and it's still running, it's still going strong. In terms of total review, it's a Vortex sight. It's got the Vortex clarity of optics, which are really good. It's got the crisp dot. Lower battery life than the other, I guess the cons, lower battery life, as well as these buttons, especially when you're going to turn them off, when you have to push both the up and down arrows at the same time. The buttons are super mushy. It doesn't really affect anything. Just you don't really feel that crisp click when you press them down. They still work. It's just not as satisfying of a click. But all in all, I would say for the bang for the buck that you get for this scope, because in Canada here where I am, it's normally $299. I picked this one up for $229 on sale. I think in the US, the MSRP for it is $259. I'm not sure what you guys can get this on sale for. But for its price, it's a very good optic. It's accurate. It's easy to adjust. It's easy to use. Battery life isn't stellar, but just basically everything else from terms of the clarity of optic and everything that you get is just a really good for the price that you pay for it. So I would say I would give this a thumbs up. So this is what the sight looks like while on the firearm itself. So again, I've got my 3x magnifier here that flips out of the way. We won't be looking at that right now. If you're curious, the model number, that is V as in Victor, M as in Motel, X as in X-ray, 3, T as in Tango. Here is the Sparc II mounted on the gun. That's what it looks like with the larger riser. In terms of the sight or the red dot itself, let's see if I can't get a camera angle. Not that you can really tell anything about it from a camera, but there's your red dot working. And again, all in all, I would say it's a great optic. What are the odds that this works? Yeah, so there's your 3x magnifier. Woo. Works better in real life, I promise. But still stays fairly crisp. The camera makes it kind of glow out of proportion, but the dot itself is pretty good. Again, here's our buttons, a little bit mushy. You got to press and hold both for a while, and then the optic will be off. And that concludes the first episode of Scott's Shots.